After the incident, I am left with the bag of truth. And for the next few hundred hours, I will be utilizing all methods necessary and all strategies needed to obtain the key to infinity, the only way of unlocking the contents of the bag of truth. This shall take us through tedious exploration, epic assassinations, disastrous industrial revolutions, brutalist magic, space colonization, multi-dimensional colonization, infinite automation, mysterious puzzles, and everything in between. And this incredibly convoluted journey begins in this rather boring stretch of grassland. So here is the plan for today. The first man standing in the way of the key to infinity was a god commonly known as Bakok, a character that was foretold by the Anishinaabe Adizu Khan. He is said to have flown through the forests of the Great Lakes region. He cries a lot and eats humans, and I had to summon him to steal something rather important from him. In order to summon him, I must set up some sort of frivolous and expensive summoning ritual, which I will get to after I set up a basic base. And in my head, there was conveniently a 30-page roadmap detailing exactly everything that I had to do to reach the key to infinity. So I will be following this step by step. Free stuff could also apparently be obtained along the way. And immediately after starting, I decided to replicate the behavior seen in lawnmowers, to destroy grass. This is because grass blocks were basically loot boxes of different magical things that did not belong in grass, such as cotton, wild root, and industrial hemp. Then, I obtained wood. Step 2. Obtain a wooden pickaxe. This could be done without a crafting table due to this insane 5 minutes craft life hack. I split the pickaxe into two 2x2 crafts, to be crafted into a pickaxe. And now, for another insane not clickbait life hack in real life. Or excavator. By holding down C while breaking something, every block of the same material would be destroyed along with it. Which I used to annihilate this cobblestone ball, sacrificing the wooden pickaxe in the process, leading to the birth of the stone pickaxe. And with stone tools, I could finally create the crafting table. On this table, I arranged 6 cobblestone in a equiangular quadrilateral shape, with one stick perpendicular to this construct. This led to the invention of the stone hammer. This will be needed for obtaining iron. But then, I forgot about it, because I had just found a good spot for my gaming headquarters. There were trees. There were grass. And there was a lot of open space. But this was slightly ruined by this suspicious-looking lump of land, next to my territory. In order to prove that I was the true alpha male in my territory, I decided to conduct an FBI raid on this, only for me to discover several snipers inside. I had been betrayed, and I died. But here's the thing. I have infinite lives, and they have one. This fact alone turned a 1v6 into a replacement inaccessible infinity versus 6. And of course, I turned out victorious. Everything in here was now mine. This included several golden carrots, chests, skulls, mushrooms. All of these would have a purpose later on. Everything had to go. Armed with my stone tools and my golden carrots for food, I entered this cave I found nearby, which opened up into a ravine. And to my surprise, This world was surprisingly rich in resources. Several multitudes of resources: copper, tin, opal, prosperity, infernium, lead, anything imaginable could be found here. And this included iron. The first possible method of obtaining iron was the caveman Ooga Booga method. This stone hammer from several nanomillennials ago would be used to ground iron into this pasta-looking thingy. And when this is combined with yellow dye from flowers, it magically becomes smelted. With my bare hands, I molded these into rods. And molded several cobblestone into cobblestone but darker. With rods and cobblestone but darker, I invented the world's first furnace. The key to infinity speedrun was looking good. And the pace would be increased by making an iron pickaxe. The predecessor stone pickaxes were all sacrificed by using them to or excavate several tens of stone for yet another furnace. But you may have noticed something. Or excavation was overpowered. After obtaining iron, my next short-term goal was to obtain the smeltery, which was basically a furnace but bigger and better. It could smelt molten hot molten materials, and cast them into any shape that I pleased. And this smeltery will be sponsored by clay, sand, and gravel, the main constituents for grout. Of course, I spammed ore excavation wherever I could. This included the river, the nearby pond, and the ground itself. But when I ore excavated grass, I noticed that I had exposed a few ore veins. That was when I realized, why walk all the way to the closest cave I knew of, when I could simply ore excavate grass to expose ores right underneath me. This was genius dream high IQ moment compilation. Until I began starving to death due to high hunger costs of mining several cubic meters of natural environment. But I could easily regain all my hunger by simply dying, and rebirthing into a new earthly form. So my mining strategy consisted of destroying several plots of land before speedrunning dying, either by zombies, burning zombies, or towering up with the dirt I just mined, before jumping. After panning out approximately 10% of this entire biome, I had accidentally exposed an entire ravine. This would have major implications for my upcoming industrial revolution. Because this was an especially rich ravine, I could now finally die in peace. And as a byproduct, I now had several thousand pieces of dirt and several new species of seeds. The several tens of dirt towers and graveyards everywhere was slightly annoying, but ultimately irrelevant for my final goal. In the meantime, I had been crafting several hundred grout and smelting them into several hundred seared bricks for the smeltery project. But the smelting was still incomplete. So in the meantime, I commenced my new capital as planned. One tree equals several tens of wood equals several wooden pickaxes. One wooden pickaxe equals several tens of cobblestone equals 7 stone pickaxes. 7 stone pickaxes equals a few hundred stone equals infinite stone pickaxes. I had found an infinite stone duplication glitch exploit unpatched free working 2023 HD, mixed with a few deaths here and there to replenish hunger. So after a tiny bit of environmental degradation, I returned to base with a few thousand pieces of stone. This would all be useful eventually. And I discovered that my seared bricks were done smelting. With these seared bricks, I could make seared bricks but 3-dimensional and real. From there, I used a bit of redstone, glass, and iron, to create the smeltery controller, casting basin, casting table, seared drain, seared tank, and seared faucets. The smeltery also ran on lava instead of coal as smelting fuel, but this was given to me as a quest completion reward, so that was convenient. And I claimed some free item conduits and timers, which caused the release of dopamine neurochemicals due to how useful this would be in the near future. Since the smeltery took up a large volume of Euclidean space, I expanded the base over in my mining death pit, using spare dirt from my previous 30 deaths. The smeltery would be built on the south edge of this outpost, and it seems that I had enough materials to construct a 3x3x3 smeltery. Bigger is better. And bigger means more volume for processing stuff. I poured my free lava into this tank, which led to the smeltery activating. Now everything I dumped in there would become molten in a finite matter of time. The molten materials could be poured out of faucets onto casting tables, to form a specified shape. In this case, an ingot mold. This gave me the option to turn any molten thingy into ingots. And this includes ores. Each ore that was melted in this chamber would give 2, aka 2, ingots. But rather than manually clicking the faucet to cast stuff, I could use this redstone timer and hyper-shorten its attention span to make it spam signals to the smeltery, causing it to cast every 0.1 picoseconds. To go along with this, I connected the casting table to a chest using an item conduit. This will automatically empty the table into the chest constantly and automatically, to make way for the next casting task. Upon returning from another wood collection hyper grind session, I got a good view of the base, and how far I have come as a society. With an increasing variety of random stuff piling up, the most natural thing to do with this wood was to make approximately 27 chests. This would be enough for all the different categories of subcategories of substances I had to store. Wood, ores, organics, stones, dirt, materials, and industrialization. I then broke the original chests and proceeded to sort everything for future reference. With a suitable ore processing, it was finally time to begin the process of getting everything for summoning Baycock. To get into the magic behind this ritual, I would need the whittling knife. Looks can be deceiving however, because this secretly needed 81 obsidian. In order to become strong enough to harvest all this, I would need to mix together a few molten liquids in the smeltery in the process known as alloying. So it was time to obtain some raw materials. I crafted several tins of spare stone pickaxes to ensure I wouldn't be trapped in the caves. And I brought a few buckets with me to do the gaming plan. You may think that it is a horrendous idea to traverse the depths of this world without any equipment or weaponry. But lava is a weapon. The cheapest one, and deadliest as well. It could deal with anything that came from any unbalanced mod. Zombies but invisible. Green tacos with legs. And mobs playing Dreamtime audio stock sound effects. And the opposite of lava, was technically a false vacuum in which no matter or 0 point energy occupies the space. But another appropriate answer was water, which was equally overpowered. The water bucket was popularized by famous Minecraft YouTube Dream when he did the Dream MLG, and it could be used to easily bridge large spans of lava. With lava, water, and infinite pickaxes, mining on this world was far too easy. Meanwhile, back at the gaming headquarters, I returned with several tins of iron, copper, tin, and other low-tier elements. I could make obsidian in the smeltery by pouring in lava and water. And this could be alloyed with iron and aluminum for the pink and shiny alumite, which I could cast into the shape of a pickaxe head for a pickaxe head-shaped casted alumite. But here's the thing. Pickaxes also needed tool binding and tool rods. And these would need an entire Tinker's Construct workshop. So it was time to speedrun that. Using the power of iron and wood, I could make blank patterns, which formed the basis of the pattern chest, tool station, stencil table, part builder, and part chest. On the stencil table, I could use an unknown substance to engrave stuff on these blank patterns. And with my bare hands, I could use the patterns to carve stone into perfectly shaped contours. Now it was time to pour gold onto them to immortalize the sacrifices as golden casts. After quickly reviewing all of the possible materials I could use for tools, I determined that an obsidian binder and tin rod were appropriate tool portions. And I could combine everything in a tool station for my custom-built pickaxe. Now, I was powerful enough to mine not just one obsidian, but about 128 obsidian. And when this is compressed along with compressed obsidian and compressed copper and compressed iron, I could assemble the whittling knife. Gaming had just begun. Using the free resources I obtained from the quests, I began a cactus farm. Any spare cacti were burnt into green dye, which were mixed with the crushed bones from skeletons killed in my FBI raid. I also began a wheat farm with the gross domestic product of one singular wheat, which I used to lure several free thinkers into my base, who were unfortunately trapped for the rest of eternity in this new animal farm. Several other unrelated cows were also assassinated for leather. With leather, dye, flint, and water, I obtained treated leather, which I used to get the first thing I needed for a ritual: drums. This was followed by the invention of the Jingle Bell Garment Construct, and the flute, from various metals that I had conveniently just smelted. I then set up some sort of ritual area, which was basically just 2 drums, and a totem pole made from clicking right-click on someone while wielding the knife. The ritual I was about to do would change the world. It would magically transmutate the species of these saplings to match the genetic data of Juniperus virginiana, which is red cedar. This will be done by more right-clicking. You see, by right-clicking these drums, right-clicking this flute, and typing on this keyboard to move my in-game character to cause the Jingle Bell Garment Construct to move due to inertia relative to my moving body, thus rotating the inner bells of the jingle bell to produce sound. I was filling up this bar, which shows the quantity of ritual sound effects I have made. Once a certain level of annoying sound effects is achieved, the gods will finally grant me my wish of red cedars, which I harvested. I then spam bone meal on this for instantaneous red cedar maturation, so that I could slay the tree for its precious wood. The red cedar wood forms the core of the third instrument, the wind chimes. When these, I unlocked the next ritual, the Bubalina subtribe of the Artiodactyla, or the species summoning ritual. This would require slightly more cacophony to perform, so I did a little bit of multitasking. My strategy was to blow on the flute while banging on the drum by using the flute as a drumstick, while occasionally holding wheat so that the cows in my farm were close enough to the ritual to be transformed. This was too easy, but I had to wait 20 minutes for them to reach their coming of age. So in the meantime, I searched for the next animal that I needed for upcoming rituals: the parrot. According to scientific literature and real American fact-checkers, they could be found in all of these biomes. And out of all of them, the magical forest was the closest parrot-compatible biome. But on my way to the supposedly magical forest, I got distracted by a massive floating island in the sky. So I made a detour and stopped everything I was doing, to construct myself up onto the floating island. At first, this may seem like a waste of time. But the time spent getting here was justified by the factual observation that there was free slime everywhere. So I burglarized it from the floating landmass. Now it was time to actually walk to the magical forest. But I got distracted once again, by beetles. Killing them would drop stuff that would be important in a few weeks. This is serious, by the way. However, before I could get distracted again, I somehow made it at the magical forest. And as predicted by my calculations, I found the parrots I needed. The next step was to domesticate them for later use. This would require a forest's worth of lawn-mowed grass worth of seeds. That was because taming parrots was basically gambling to see if they will finally be subjugated after consuming 5 quadrillion seeds. Once they were under my command, I forced them to sit down in this exact location. And on this location, right next to the aforementioned exact location, I set up my ritual area, complete with totems, wind chimes, and drums. In the time it took to get distracted and domesticate parrots, all of my buffaloes had grown. So I force-fed them wheat to perform the glitch known as the animal breeding duplication glitch. This gave me room to kill 1 buffalo, for buffalo teeth and hide. These buffalo teeth were part 1 of 5 for the 4th instrument, the shaker. Disclaimer: any resemblance to real persons or other real-life entities is purely coincidental. All characters and other entities appearing in this work are fictitious. Anyways, this new instrument needed some emeralds, lapis, and redstone, so I returned to the deepest depths of the ravine I found, armed with 10 worthless stone pickaxes to sacrifice for mining the common ores, and my more powerful Illumite pickaxe to mine the more valuable ores. Once I had enough rare gemstones, I combined everything into the shaking instrument. This unlocked the next ritual, the eagle spawning ritual. Now this is where the parrots come into play. By using the shaking instrument and some other older instruments, I activated the parrot ritual. Now all that was left to do was to The tragedy of the 2023 massacre shocked the world. 4 innocent civilians had all coincidentally and simultaneously flown into the lava out of free will. This was unbelievable and not believable. And I shall get my revenge on everything in the 5-mile radius. I had been searching for days for the elusive parrot. But when all hope was about to be lost, I finally found signs of life, in the form of exactly 2 parrots. And so, it was time to do a little trolling, by turning these parrots into a Kippatridae, the modern eagle. And these sacred creatures would be commodified, leaving behind valuable eagle bones and feathers for mass consumption by the common public. By doing a little bit of crafting, I could transmute these eagle materials into the eagle whistle. But with small power, comes small responsibility. Because this was the final instrument needed to awaken Baycock, in the Totentanz ritual. But first, I had to do something extremely important. I did a special ceremonial ritual to make my flute slightly shinier. Besides my screen becoming 0.5% more visually appealing to look at, this newly upgraded Pan's flute was apparently more annoying than the normal flute. Which meant that rituals will be completed more hastily. In conclusion, it was now time to summon Baycock into our mortal realm. I had been clearing out an obscene quantity of room for the boss fight arena. By now, the sky was dark, and the clouds began to discharge dihydrogen monoxide, which was a sign that something bad or sad was about to happen. In the meantime, I was contemplating how I would take down Baycock. I had been doing a bit of research, and preliminary analysis reveals that he has a few hundred health points, has immense speed, high IQ intelligence quotient, and is a bow spammer. But I will not sink down to his level. I was going to settle this, using honor and glory and blah blah blah. Using only fists. As the arena was nearing completion, I noticed the dawn was quickly approaching. So I jumped out of the death pit of death and quickly made preparations. The best accoutrements I could provide for myself were of iron. And I made about 400 shields to defend myself from the 400,000 arrows that were about to be shot. The 60 cows that I killed during my magical forest rampage would also be useful, because I would use their meat as sustenance. With all of that in my inventory, I proceeded to the ritual area, and I began the trolling. The ground was rather uneven. These lakes and pillars were omnipresent as well. These were not a part of the plan. But analyzing whether the plan was going well or not was not a part of the plan. First and foremost, I used my shields to ward off the first few attacks. And in between shield blocks, I took turns punching. But in between my shield openings, Baycock managed to land a few painful shots. If we took a look at various samples of my health and Baycock's health at certain times, and fit a least squares regression line to analyze the trend, it seemed that I would die first. Baycock's shoot speed and reload time were simply too superb. But I held on. There is something you have to know about Divine Journey 2. When the player dies, all their stuff is stored in a graveyard. But all graveyards look the same. And my most recent death to Baycock blended in with all of the other deaths that happened when I made the arena. I could not tell whether the next grave had all my equipment, or had 2,000 dirt in them. Baycock took advantage of my predicament and massacred me as I searched through the arena graveyard, which only made even more graves. And I was left with more graves to search than when I started searching. But just when it seemed impossible that I could find my original grave, a miracle happened. I couldn't see Baycock anymore, meaning he couldn't see me, meaning he couldn't shoot me, and I found all of my equipment. But even then, Baycock didn't reappear. He didn't trap or ambush me. So I looked for him. I searched the east, west, north, side, upper, and lower sides of the arena, and he was nowhere to be seen. Baycock was officially lost. This epic battle has turned into a search and rescue mission for this disgraced god. But according to my calculations, flooding in the arena caused by undrained lakes may have trapped him. And this was true, because I found Baycock stuck in a flooded remnant of the old mining days. So I plugged up the water to resume my epic battle with him. After familiarizing myself with Baycock's fighting pattern, I now had more of an idea of what to do. The cooldown between each shot was constant, so all I had to do was to hear the sound of my shield blocking something, before immediately doing something. By something, I mean I either lunged forward, or punched Baycock. This needed some very precise timing due to how constant his shooting was. But the funniest observation was that I could deflect Baycock's own arrows back at him. In fact, deflections were the main thing slowly killing him. So this battle was basically an assisted self-destruction. The fight dragged on, and the phenomenon known as nighttime occurred. Zombies got between me and Baycock, but both of us were too focused on getting this fight over with. Whenever I got dangerously low on health, I would retreat into some place safe and feast on my federal meat reserves, before returning. The arena was now riddled with several dirt megastructures, some of which I used during my regeneration retreats. I knew every nook and cranny in my own base. And I had the geographical advantage, which was good according to the art of war or something. But it was at this point when Baycock began demonstrating interesting behavior. He had also been learning my patterns, and he knew exactly where I would pop out when I was done hiding. Baycock himself also found a few hiding spots, and he tried to ambush me in one of the holes in the arena, which failed because he somehow couldn't shoot me when we were in the same block. So I escaped. And according to my recalculations, I would need to go to a different part of the arena, since Baycock wouldn't be familiar with it. So I fled to the north side, which had several dirt walls and pillars to hide around. He was already below half health anyways, so I simply had to finish him off. After several more minutes of intense dueling, I decided to retreat vertically this time, seeking refuge behind this ancient staircase. As I was regenerating, Baycock stared intensely through this wall, and the moment I went 9 pixels to the side, I was sniped off the staircase, and the fight was resumed. By the dawn of the next day, Baycock had fallen, and I received Baycock's bow, which would be the first piece of the puzzle, for the key to infinity. Speaking of infinity, my current sub-goal is to reach replaceable uncountable infinity subscribers. Please help me reach this goal, plus you will find out when episode 2 will become real. So, I had just killed a god. But Bangkok was only one of many bosses that I had to face. Tens of lost kings, tired gods, and deformed creations awaited me rather soon. And I shall challenge all of them in the upcoming chapters. But for now, the obtaining of Bangkok's bow had unlocked quite a few tasks in the industrial and agricultural sectors of my society. And I shall do all of that, in episode 2, of Divine Journey 2. Some of you might be wondering what happened to GregTech New Horizons and Nomi Factory. You see, I had achieved fusion energy in Nomi Factory. But Nomi Factory had gotten boring after about 100 hours of simply making machines and putting machines in machine lines and connecting them to even more machines. So I am taking a break from Nomi Factory. But as for GregTech New Horizons, I shall be making a very special episode soon, which shall also be the final episode of GregTech New Horizons, to conclude the Guild Age GregTech FMP. So that is an explanation of what is going on.